Yes, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. Harlem Network News is a media platform right here in Harlem. And we are really dedicated to ensuring that Harlem and the Harlems of the world are informed, engaged, and called to action. Very critical at such a time as this. We encourage you to really follow us on all social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and donate. Black Media Matters. You can Zell us at our coordinates, harlemnetworknews@gmail.com, or Cash App us. Very, very critical so we can really keep going. Today, we are just totally honored to have with us Kai Cogsville, and he is the head director of Defend Harlem now. They've been outside, just really trying to get some things going. Particular focus, as I know, on the 145 project. So, Kai, if you would just say hello to our audience on Harlem and Harlems of the world, and let us know a bit about Defend Harlem now. Why did you start? What is it? Who are you and whose are you? Thank you so much.
For sure, for sure. Thanks for having me. Hello, my beautiful Harlem people. And my name is Kai Cogsville. I got involved in this work like a little bit after the pandemic, like around 2021. My father was heavily involved in Harlem when he was running the Harlem Urban Development Corporation. So this Harlem has always really been in my blood, and specifically economic development, how we can create jobs and keep the people from Harlem here and thriving. So I joined the New York Interfaith Commission for Housing Equality, which is a group of faith leaders and community organizers. They started around 12, 15 years ago to really stop displacement and really preserve the Harlem community that they saw was really kind of under attack from rezonings and other things that were happening and just the crazy rise of rents. So I joined as their communications director because I had a background in media and entertainment. And
Important.
it was really a couple months after I joined, I realized I needed to create a platform that really spread the incredible information I was learning as the communications director and get more people advocating and involved in these really essential issues around Harlem. So that's kind of how it came together. And then through events, we started building a team of other incredible volunteers that have really helped with the media and advocacy and organization. So over the past 3 to 4 years, we've really been ramping up and becoming more organized and more of a real situation. And we're officially a nonprofit for the last 2 years. So we're really like getting our feet off the ground and organizing around these essential issues. I think we fill a void in Harlem because these issues can become very political, and we try and just stick to the issues around housing and creating jobs and not get into backing whatever politician, but more be a vehicle to educate and inform them on what needs to be done here in Harlem.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. And I had the honor to just get out there at the recent march that you had, and it's refreshing to understand your background in media because that's very important. Just like we kind of have a food void, really, there's been a concentrated effort for us to have a media void. My background is in media and television as well, and I've worked films, worked at all of the networks. But in 2020, in coinciding with the pandemic, I knew it was necessary to really get out there and just start a whole platform. And fortunately, I just had to jump in the deep water and keep going. And after the pandemic, I understood it was even more important. And it was very refreshing to see the New York Interfaith Council out there because during the pandemic times, I actually shared and interviewed many times, and he was very supportive with Dr. Pastor Blue. So, very powerful man. And I honestly first met him when there was a big controversy with Lenox Terrace, and they were trying to put 5 buildings on. And Pastor Blue and the team were at City Hall and they shut it down. So, I have a lot of respect for that team. So, when I saw that collaboration of Defend Harlem and that, I know that we were in the exact right place. Now, what are some of the projects that Defend Harlem has, really had to address? And I know as we say, the 145 project is kind of front and center. Can you explain a little bit about that? I also am formerly was on Community Board 10 for about 2 years. So I'm a bit familiar with it. And I know when I was on it, we voted it down, for
Right.
many, many, many reasons. So if you could share what that 145 is, what the journey is, where we're now, how it got on the table like this. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think that project, like since you were on the community board in that area, it's been in talks for years. So it was recently approved last summer. I guess it got through the ULERP process, and this is a 1,000 unit development, which is, that's one of the biggest developments really coming to New York City in general, not just Harlem. And it will bring I don't like to quote exact numbers, but it will bring at the current income levels, just to keep it simple, a lot of residents making north of 80 to $100,000 a year. That will be,
Okay.
if it's approved with what it is now in terms of what it's been passed on. And as you know, the community has really been against it because at those certain income levels, it's for people that make more than what they actually make in the local community and in that neighborhood, which is
Mhm.
around $50,000 a year. You're talking about income levels that are almost double it, So
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, it's a
A lot of people make less than that
exactly, exactly.
by the time you take out taxes and whatever else, medical, you know, insurance.
Care, all that stuff. Yeah, it's
Not there.
crazy. So that is a major, major development that will really change the whole landscape of Lenox Avenue. And as you know, Lenox Avenue is comprised of mainly small story buildings, 6 to 12 stories tops. We're talking three times that with this development. So it could also cause some rezoning. And what is really important in terms of Lenox Avenue, and I'm glad you brought up Lenox Terrace, is other
Yeah,
developers, not even just on Lenox Avenue, but in Harlem in general, are going to be looking at what they set the income levels on this project. And they're going to pick up and say, well, they did it at 145. Why can't we do it for this development?
absolutely. Absolutely.
So it can cause a really scary domino effect with the Lenox Terrace extension, with the Lincoln Correctional Facility and other developments. And I think will ultimately cause the rezoning of Lenox Avenue if we're not extremely careful with this.
Yes, yes, yes. And Lenox Avenue, also Malcolm X Boulevard, absolutely.
Yes.
And there's also a concern. There's another tall building, which is a Mitchell Lama Co-op, which is Esplanade Gardens, that has been there for several years, and they are struggling with a lot of different repairs and just a whole cast of things. And whatever view they have, it will be blocked. And there are also concerns about that amount of people being dropped into the neighborhood, in a sense of, as it is, the subway system really doesn't support who's there. So, how do we deal with the infrastructure? And then there were other things that happened while, if they couldn't get the 145 project, then they were going to build a truck stop, which they kind of did. And, the whole area kind of looks in shambles. So it's very concerning, in terms of the demographics of who is going to move in there. And then whatever affordable housing there is, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's minimal. And you get this affordable housing based on an AMI that's not based on what the people in Harlem make. So can you address that? And that's also one of the concerns and issues. So if you would just address that and just speak about our public officials and how this has all been folded in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's one of the reasons we were out there and continue to aggressively advocate and educate around this project is in order to make the changes you're talking about, you need a direct line and a constant communication with our mayor, whoever that is, and potentially our governor as well, to really subsidize and make sure those issues are prioritized in Harlem. It really seems like, and there's a lot of information to back this up, that Central Harlem has been constantly ignored, excuse me, for the
Yes.
you know, for too long now, and we haven't been getting subsidies, and the numbers are there where we're losing close to 4 to 5 thousand Black residents just a year in Central Harlem alone. Yet we can't have a conversation with our mayor to discuss these things. And
Mhm.
this isn't coming at anyone in an aggressive or a nasty way. This is simply saying we have people like yourself, like myself, that are really on the ground and understand these issues in the community. We need to have a line of communication to really get these things done and really build a new chapter here in Harlem, specifically Central Harlem, that has really been hit the hardest and ignored. So I think that's what we all need to do. And that's why I've been telling people, if there's 300 to 400 people at these marches, we can't be ignored. But if we continue not to show up, they will continue to kind of push us under the rug. And that's not this or that. That's just kind of what it is. So I am completely in agreement with you, but I think it's a government issue at the end of the day, right?
Yes, it appears to be. And, that's, I guess, a whole nother thing because it's very important that we hold all of our public officials accountable.
Yeah.
Everybody that is in Central Harlem, no matter what our incomes are, we pay taxes. Even if we don't have a job, when we go to the store, we pay taxes. So it's very critical that we are not treated as if we are the bastard child whose father does not acknowledge us. And it does feel like that's what's happening right now. And it's concerning because we're hearing about all the changes, that our current mayor is making, and this is happening and that is happening. But we're not seeing the reflection of this here. This should be the place that is front and center. We have a very complex makeup of people here in Central Harlem. And we're also really suffering from a lot of economic devastation and, inequities. Our schools here in Central Harlem, District 5, are 99.999% Black and brown. And it's not equal education, it's separate, but it's not equal. But even if it was separate, the part is that it's not equal. So we've got a lot going on. And I believe that a lot of people have just like tuned out, and they feel like there's nothing they can do. Nobody's going to help us. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. So you have that, but you also have people that are under severe day-to-day economic stress to just get to work, figure out if they're going to buy medicine or food, get their children to school. We have a lot of people who are housed in shelters, and we even have people that are coming like from Brooklyn and Queens from shelters because they've been moved and they don't want to change their children's school. So we just have a lot to contend with. We also have more drug centers, rehabs in Harlem than probably any other borough. We got people coming from over Randall's Island. You look at Metro North and the drug transactions that are going on over there, and also the crime, the crime that is happening here, the targeting of the police here. I think there are more buses with cameras in Harlem that are going 250 a pop here, and so it's just a lot. And then the stress of the drag nets and the stop and checks, we're under a lot of stress. So it even impacts people's health. So if you could just address with Defend Harlem, like what you're doing, the progress you have made, and for this 145 project, what the expectation and the outcome is that you're looking for.
For sure. And before I get into that, I'd like to just mention, based on what you brought up, which was a great point, that there is that kind of sad sentiment that a lot of people are bringing up that, oh, there's nothing that we can do. Like, what's the point of even trying? And I think that is so false. Harlem is still the biggest brand in the world. And we
Absolutely.
have a lot of power, especially collectively, all of us, what we can do together. So I think, and we have some of the most creative and influential voices in the world that are living here. I think it's more important now than ever for us to like kind of kick that notion aside and come together. But in terms of what the specific work that we're doing, we are with 145, we really are advocating for the people that make between minimum wage and 65 to $70,000 a year, right? These are the people throughout New York, but specifically in Harlem, that have been excluded from quote unquote affordable housing, right? And we're also trying to make sure that those people have some type of supportive services in these developments, right? Childcare, some type of social mobility, job services. So not only do they have a place to live, but these housing, especially with 145, can be
Mhm.
used as some type of social mobility, right? Help them get better
Absolutely.
jobs, higher employment, higher wages. And I think that would set an important precedent here in New York City, especially in Harlem, where a lot of those people are working full time, sometimes for the city, are living in shelters. I mean, that's
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right.
That's a reality. I had an experience during COVID. I was worked on the situation room, and I remember, just calling a client and, letting them know that they had been exposed and so on and so forth. And the woman said, just a moment, I just want to get off the bus. And then she got off the bus because I guess she didn't want people to hear what she was saying, and she was concerned because she'd been exposed. But she was a teacher, and she was worried because she said, well, I'm living in a shelter, which is a communal place. And, so that's what we're really talking about.
Right.
That's what we are talking about. And
Yeah.
we have got to address this matter. The other thing that was spoken about when we bantered with the community board on this was that they were speaking about building two towers. And one tower was for the the medium income people, or the people, the low income people, or whatever. And then one tower was going to be for the others. And the concern was, when we've seen this done, then the people in the second tower, they don't get the same services as the people in the other towers. So the discrimination and, lack of repairs and whatever continues. So we have to, fix that situation. And I also do believe that the media is very important, because it's kind of like, and that's why we need donations and subscribers and sponsors for a Harlem Network News, because we are a small operation. We make, lemonade out of lemon, but mostly people don't know what is going on. We had a big seminar at the Urban League on reparations. The place was filled, but the line should have been out the door. You know,
Right.
your event should have been, like the largest gathering in Harlem. But some of it is that people don't know. Mainstream media doesn't cover this stuff. And, people just don't know what's going on. So we got to get a pathway, because, the media is the message, and the message is the media. So that's what we're dealing with. If you
No,
would
definitely.
understand.
And also, when you discuss that teacher that was living in the shelter, I think one of the other things we're advocating for is to include more supportive services in these shelters that we have. I think that's another important aspect that it can't just be to do the status quo. I think we got to get a lot more New Yorkers, especially in Harlem, back to work. That working is not only, that doesn't only give you a financial safety net, but that gives you purpose and it helps your mental health. And that's something that I think we're really advocating for as well.
Yes, and a lot of the people that are in the shelters are working people. And if we look at the dollars that are spent in the shelters or the hotels, it's outrageous.
It is. Yeah.
Compared to what an apartment costs, just like, that's a whole nother topic, but just what it costs to house folks that are incarcerated.
Right.
It costs more than a college education.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Mhm. So with the 145 project, what kind of progress are you making? What's next? What kind of feedback are you getting from the existing public officials? And then you can share a little bit about some of the public officials that were at the actual march last Thursday. So thank you.
Yes, for sure. So when we really started ramping up last summer and really letting people know what we were advocating for, and this shows the power of media and organizing, we quickly got a meeting with the developer as well as with some other advocates, and we came to a real agreement that the developer, and I don't want to get into what he's making or whatever, that's private stuff. I'm here to focus on what's best for the community. And
Yes, thank you.
we were focused on we were all on the same page. He said, listen, Kai and your team, the income ranges that you want, I would be happy to develop that if the city can come in and create subsidies for and help finance the building. And we were all on the same page. And I think they presented a nonprofit developer who was going to buy the second tower that we all really liked and has a great track record in doing this type of development with those supportive services. I think he got his, I don't think his proposal was rejected by HPD. This was about 2 to 3 months ago.
Okay.
Right now, we kind of got it to that point where I thought we were kind of getting what the community wanted, but it seems like we're back to the drawing board.
Mhm.
That's why we're doing the marches and really advocating and getting the community behind it. And that's why we wanted to make sure the newly elected congresswoman, who I think will win, who knows what will happen the next few months.
Yes.
That's why we had her there.
Person of our candidate that won the primary election,
Right.
and that is in the person of Daria Lisa Chevalier. And
Right.
I just say that because as we're on this media, I want to make sure that everybody's aware of what occurred. I know that we also had our assembly person who won the election in the person of Jordan Wright. That was it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we also had the people that, the other candidates that didn't necessarily win
Yes.
that joined,
Yes.
which I think is an important statement that we
I
all
think
try
I
to
think
make
so
with
as
our
well.
work. This
Yeah.
is about the issues and the people, not necessarily about politics. And we try and make sure these people all come together to rally around what's right for Harlem.
Yeah, we have to be on what's called a one Harlem. That's been a kind of campaign coming out of our state senator Cordell Clear. But we really have to live that, and we have to take the politics out of it, the personalities out of it. This is about saving Harlem.
Right.
It's about saving ourselves. It's about the future of our children. It's about, generational wealth. It's about all of these things. And I know that I've heard it several times, and I believe I heard it at the rally also, that, the white New Yorkers or Harlemites or whatever, they're making 15 times more than the average Black person. These are documented statistics. So you look at what the playing field is, it's uneven. And then, whole nother ball game with Columbia coming in with eminent domain and tax write-offs. just like all of these developers and businesses get tax write-offs to come here and do things. We don't get a tax write-off
Right.
as working people.
No.
So, the playing field is very, very, very uneven. So I'm very glad that I was able to reach out to you because I saw Defend Harlem, and then I just emailed, and then it took a minute because of everything. But just glad to really have you on and just have you speak about what happened. So what's next in the plan and the program? And
For
what
sure.
are the strategies? And tell us a little bit about how you're working with the interfaith, the New York Interfaith Commission, and how you all are building that power base.
Yeah, for sure. So I think in terms of the Interfaith Commission and Defend Harlem, we're really one together, and we work in parallel. We're more involved, like you know, in media and organizing our team, and the
Mhm.
interfaith. And I think this is, history kind of repeating itself during tough times. I think it's important that we rely on our religious leaders for some of that moral clarity. And
Mhm.
really start organizing these congregations of people to get behind these important issues. So that's what we're doing, and we're going to be doing some more public rallies. I think we have some momentum here in the community, so I want to keep building on that. So we'll be doing something like that again soon, to keep advocating and keep making noise. But also behind the scenes, we are working with our local officials to try and create meetings, presentations, and get a line and a real presentation for the mayor for him to better understand what's happening here in Central Harlem. Um, and like you saw, I think that's important on why we had Dario Lisa there, because she was endorsed by the mayor. So I think that
Yes.
this
Mhm.
is how we're, moving strategically behind the scenes as well. And we're really trying to make sure that we can start implementing some type of workforce housing in New York City and Harlem for those people, like I said, that make between minimum wage and $65,000 a year that are working full time. They deserve housing. And I think there's a lot of ways for us to make sure that happens if we work closely with government. So that's what we're doing right now. And we're also working on a project called Harlem on the Hudson, which is a separate project, um,
Okay.
in
Yeah.
regards to the Columbia issue, right? They bought Fairway for $84 million. That
Yeah.
area should really be utilized to celebrate the Black and Hispanic culture of Harlem, Washington Heights, and Dyckman to create local jobs and business opportunities. It
Absolutely.
will be developed soon or later, and that should be with the mindset to prioritize the Harlem and Uptown community. So that's something else we're advocating for.
Yeah. Thank you for that because Columbia is just spreading and spreading and spreading. And when we look at this, I think 2% of Black and Brown people attend Columbia University. Everybody that lives in Harlem should probably be able to get a free education at Columbia with all that they have taken, and they get tax write-offs. So this is just really outrageous. If anything, we're being thrown like a few crumbs or something, maybe where we can have a meeting at whatever space they have, or some little thing like that. This is not it. We are working, tax-paying citizens, and I think what you're doing in terms of saying, like, we got to get to the mayor, we got to get to the existing public officials. In a way, this is a city thing, but it's not. So we have to get to the mayor, Mayor Mamdani. I'm saying it because I want to make sure everybody knows who the mayor is. We have got to get to the speaker of the city council. We have got to get to our council person, Dr. Yusef Salam. That's straight up on the city. We've got to be in collaboration with our community board 10, as well as our our borough president. That's on the city level. But because of this AMI, the Congress person is going to have to weigh in. The
Mhm.
governor is going to have to weigh in. All the state officials are going to have to weigh in because it's got to be a holistic thing. And for this to really change the paradigm of what happens in Harlem, in
Yeah.
my opinion. And I love what you're doing. And yeah, I'm inspired really. I'm looking at actually starting a task force of about 20 people, not coming from politics, but where we actually go to our public officials, we meet, we find out how are you spending your money? What are the issues on the table? How are you voting? This is how we want you to vote. We don't want things just happening. And a closer relationship with the mayor for media. I actually am on that, and I'm going to say this on the air, and maybe something can be helped with this, but I'm on the ethnic media team. I do get notices of where the mayor is every day, what he's doing. But honestly, when we were under the past mayor, Mayor Adams, we actually had a point person that we could talk to and find out things. And we were invited to City Hall to roundtables. I haven't seen any of that happening with Mayor Mamdani. This is very, very, very critical. And I mean, I just saw something this morning where he's making moves at Rikers Island and closed down one of the buildings. Not it's a medical building or something. Nobody's in there. And okay, that's great. But where's the line of the people knowing about this? How do people feel about this? This is very, very critical. And this is what we're dealing with at the top, where a President Trump just makes decisions and nobody's able to say anything. It's just done. And even if you could do anything about it, a year of legal stuff will just go in a circle. So we need to be not in separate silos, but really just working collective. So we're going to wind down. But if you would address some of that, and also just because there's a lot of, with this primary that we just had, and with the three candidates that came in under the Democratic Socialist, and people are kind of confused, and some people are afraid. Some people don't understand, that these are Democrats, and it's kind of my understanding. I did interview candidate Conrad Blackburn, and he explained or said, well, Democratic Socialism, it's not a party. We're Democrats, but it is, like a kind of a club so if we could just get some clarity, because people are very worried, they're very concerned, and that is causing like divides, rifts. There's the whole, how are people funded, APAC, Israel, where does Hakeem Jeffrey stand? There's a lot of that going in a circular thing. And then there's a whole thing about, I guess you could say, Central Harlem, Blacks, how are they treated, versus immigrant, young versus old. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff going on, and we got to come together. So, what you got
Yeah,
to say? Thank
I,
you.
I agree. There's definitely a lot politically going on. And I think this is kind of like an organic switch that's happened in New York with like the more aggressive politics, kind of whatever you want to call it, socialism, whatever, where I mean, just the average rent in Manhattan is what, like $5,200 a month? Like things are just getting so out of hand that I think it causes radical change, and that's what we're dealing with, and that's what we have. And I think it's kind of addressing some of these hard questions that need to be answered of deep affordability. We can do all these great things. If people can't afford to live here, afford to pay their bills, nothing else really matters, right? So that's, I think, what's happening now. And what we're doing is just trying to inform and educate all of the different decision makers and create a line with them to focus on what's happening here in Harlem, honestly. So that's what we're focusing on. And then obviously, in terms of just Black people, what you mentioned earlier, that stat where our average wealth in New York State is something like 18 to $20,000. compared to that of white households, which is like 250,000. I mean, that's a travesty, and that deserves a lot of attention. That deserves its own task force.
Yes. Yes. And even things that were created, I know as an entrepreneur that things like the empowerment zone, I don't know, somehow, Black businesses, that's a whole nother level. We're never really able to, benefit from that. And it was supposed to be created for that. So there are a lot of inequities, and now is the time. And I guess I can look back at when it was a time of Vietnam and in the late 60s. And, I literally went to Lincoln University, and one of my upperclassmen and, colleagues was Gil Scott Heron. So I'm not new to this. The revolution will not be televised, or will it be live? Well, it's live now. So we're looking at all of this, and a lot of the swelling and, the Black Power movement, all of those things really came out of the youth, and the youth were informed and so on and so forth. So this may be a resurgence of this, but even more so, even though that came out of the youth, it was always intergenerational. Towards the thing, Dr. Martin Luther King denounced the war on Vietnam. He was moving towards economic development, and there were lots and lots of collaborative things. So I think intergenerational is very important. Some of the young people are coming out, and they didn't invent the wheel. So, Sankofa, we got to look at what happened so we can go to the future. And this is what we've got to do. We can't have the dissent, the inner fightings, or any of those things. We can't afford it. Can't afford it. So if you would just give us some closing statements and some words of encouragement, and also how we can get in touch with you and, follow and make sure that you got a lot of support. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I would say, in terms of your earlier point with the political landscape and changes, I do feel and see a lot of energy from the youth, and a lot more people getting involved in social justice, politics, and advocating for their rights, which I think is amazing. I think we need way more of that, though, in Harlem around these issues, honestly. When you see some of these big events, a lot of people show up. We just need some of that, more of that energy here in Harlem, and for people to understand that we do have some time to make a lot of difference. Like, the game is not over, and that mindset needs to be kind of gotten rid of. And so we're going to be continuing to advocate around some of these issues, and we're hoping that Mamdani can really include Harlem in his housing plan, which I think is a great plan. He
Yeah,
just needs to
he
get a
has to,
break.
not we
Yeah,
hope. He has to.
he has
And
to. Right.
power concedes power. So
Yeah.
we've got to demand our just
Yeah.
deserts. Yeah.
We do, and that's what we're going to continue doing, as well as advocating for other projects like Harlem on the Hudson that really create local jobs and business opportunities, so we can really leverage our incredible influence that we have here. And in terms of people that would like to get in touch with us, you can always follow us at defend.harlem on Instagram.
Mhm.
We're pretty active there. My
Okay.
email is in the bio if anyone wants to reach out. I'm pretty
Okay.
quick with email. And
Good. Great.
shoot us a DM at any time. And we usually post all of our information up there. And then you can DM your email as well to subscribe and get on our email list for other updates.
Okay. Well, thank you for the great work that you're doing. And just another thought popped. We did have our former council member, Christian Jordan Richardson, and she was there, and she had been instrumental in really pushing back on the 145 project. And she also raised another issue because, just so we dispel things or we address things. She spoke about the Democratic Socialists, and that there are Black Democratic Socialists, because that's another like feeling that people have, that a lot of these Democratic Socialists are like, young white people in Harlem, or we don't know where the money's coming from, and they're pushing this and they're pushing that. And so there were concerns about that. she shared that uh, the candidate Conrad Blackburn, when I interviewed him, he shared that as well. But once again, it's about us coming together. And I
Right.
thought, it was great that Jordan Wright was there. He just made a very generic speech, but he was there. And that's important that we collaborate. They were also at National Action Network on Saturday. So we have to work in community. There's unity in community. I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News once again. You can follow us on YouTube, on all social media. You can reach out to us directly at 646-261-5397, Harlem Network News at gmail.com, Cash App us, Zelle us. You have the coordinates. So thank you so much. And as my counterpart, Roland Martin, says, bring your eyeballs home. Okay, because when you're watching Tubi, that's Fox. That's who that is. And they're getting the advertising dollars because you're watching it, not us. So shut it down. So thank you so much. I know you have another meeting. I know you're busy. And thank you for just stepping out and doing all that you continue to do. And we support you. And we're going to work collaboratively to really defend and save Harlem. There's an organization called Save Harlem Now. That's what we're about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a
Okay.
great day.
You too, dear. Thank you.